Welcome to Eye on Gainesville. I'm Katil Feltz. Sidewalk improvements, better housing options, stormwater infrastructure, and community policing are just some of the top issues Gainesville's newest employee is already working on. Joining me now to talk about his plans for 2016 is City Manager Brian Lackey. Welcome to the show today.
Thanks, Katil. It's great to be here.
So glad to have you joining us, and we are just glad to have you in Gainesville. Welcome to our city.
Thank you very much. Again, it's great to be here.
Now, for our viewers who are just now meeting you, who haven't already seen you at all the different meetings you've been attending, tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I have roots here in Northeast Georgia. I'm from Winder originally, but my parents and both my grandparents were both from the Gainesville, Hall County area. So I've got a deep family tradition here in the Hall County area.
Why did you want to work for the city of Gainesville?
Well, I've been in public service, local government for 20 years now. 20 years with Gwinnett County. I both lived there and worked for Gwinnett County. 12 years as an engineer for the Department of Water Resources, and the last 8 in the Department of Planning and Development as both the director and deputy director. So after that 20 years there, I felt it was time to go to the next step in my career. The last couple of years I've had that feeling to go that direction. But I didn't want to just go to any jurisdiction, any community, and I wanted it to be the right place. And when I saw that the city of Gainesville had this position open, I jumped at it because of the history I have with Gainesville, my family. I know what a great place it is and what a great organization it is, and I knew it would be a great opportunity for me.
What word would you use to describe your first 30 days in office, so to speak?
Well, I think whirlwind is probably the number one with that, with just the amount of information going on in Gainesville. There's a lot of things happening here in Gainesville with that, so that's probably the best way to describe the first 30 days.
What about, you talk about, certainly you've already spent 20 years in local government. What about the transition from where you were to now this job as city manager? What are just some of the obvious differences?
Well, obviously the span of your control, the things you have to cover, coming from an organization where, while I did have a lot of responsibilities, it was narrowed somewhat. And stepping into the city manager's role, then you're taking on everything in the city. Some advice that was given to me when I came here is to remember everything's important. It's important to somebody, and to keep that in mind. And I found that to be true. That's
great advice too. Everything is important, and in the next 30 minutes, we're going to talk about everything in the city. When I was preparing for this interview, I was thinking about my office is located in the old City Hall building. When I look out one side of my building to the left, I see Jesse Jewell Parkway, and when I look out the other side of my building to the right, I look out over Roosevelt Square and downtown Square. I feel like two of the busiest locations in Gainesville. I want to talk about what is going to be happening in both those areas over the next year. So let's start with the square.
Well, you're right, there is a lot going on, and we've just recently completed our downtown master plan that the Carl Vinston Institute helped us with. And several things in that plan we look to implement over the next year. One of those being the development of the city-owned Main Street lots. Those are the 2 surface parking lots that stretch from the Gainesville Midland train down to the Bernal Downtown Center, those 2 surface lots. We're in the process of going through a feasibility study to see what type of development can go there, and we're excited about the possibility of an RFP being issued later this year to partner with a developer to put some type of development there, perhaps a mixed-use development, to get some more rooftops into the downtown area.
When you say mixed use, explain to our viewers what you mean.
Well, a mixture of uses such as commercial on the first floor with perhaps some residential units on top of that. Perhaps there might be an office component with that. When we say that, it's several uses within one building, not just one retail building going in, not just an apartment complex going in, but a mixture of uses to have some businesses in the downtown area, some new businesses in those areas, along with some rooftops, to have some people down there who can take advantage of the many things the downtown area has to offer with that. There's also the Roosevelt Square renovations going in. If anyone's been to the square here recently, you know, it could use a facelift a little bit. It could use a little bit of a touch. I think the possibilities or the potential with that are the placemaking that can go along with that, to kind of build off of the square and all the great things we've got going on with the downtown square, and kind of bringing that in closer to Jesse Jewell and the intersection there. We also talk a lot about pedestrian connectivity, and if we're going to have that, we've got to make sure that our sidewalks are up to snuff, so to speak. Looking forward to a sidewalk master plan in the downtown area to make sure those areas are sidewalks that need to be addressed and need a little attention, get that. And if there's any gaps in our sidewalk areas we need to address, we do that as well. Another part of that is the streetscaping that goes along with that. We just don't want it all to be concrete. And there's also those moats, the crossings of the moats in the downtown, to spruce those up a little bit, to give the downtown a little more aesthetics feel to it. All that ties back into across the street, as you mentioned, in the Midtown area, the bridge across Jesse Jewell Parkway out there. We're excited about the potential of the City View site, which is directly across the street from your office that you mentioned before. I look forward to working with the owners of that property and see what they like to do with it, again, just to draw more people from the square, even across that bridge to the other side of Jesse Jewell. And that extends down to the Midtown Greenway, down to the city-owned jail site. The Sheriff's Department should soon be vacating that building pretty soon, so that's going to have a lot of potential for redevelopment in that area, expanding all the way from the square, across the bridge, across Jesse Jewell Parkway, and into the Midtown area. So that's just a few of the things we're really excited about in the downtown area.
That's just within a few blocks, and certainly Gainesville consists of so much more. As the new city manager, it has to be a good feeling to come into a city where we feel like things are going pretty well here, and certainly glad to have you as the head of our team. How does it make you feel to know that you're walking into a nationally accredited police department, an ISO Class 1 fire department?
Well, that's one of the things that attracted me to Gainesville. There's really nothing broken to be fixed here. It's a quality organization, well run. The people that have come before me have built a great foundation here for me to build upon. You mentioned the public safety aspect of the city, which is nothing but quality. Chief Martin has done a great job in her first year as a police chief, focusing on the community-oriented policing there to let our community know that our policemen are getting out there. They know they're a part of the community. There's been other communities around the nation in the past year that have struggled a little bit with their policing activities, and we want our community to know that there's nothing to be afraid of with our police, and I think she's doing a great job of doing that through that community-oriented policing. Also, her data-driven approach to policing, I think, is key, using data, using metrics to know where to focus their resources with that, so that's a great component of what she's done. And I think it's telling the fact that their national accreditation agency this April will be giving them an award as one of the best run police departments in the nation. So that's certainly a feather in our cap. And of course it goes without saying that Chief Yarborough has done a great job with our fire department getting that ISO Class 1 rating and how that really directs back to our citizens and property owners in the reduction of their property insurance rates because of that rating.
What about other work that might come up regarding the fire department in the next year? I know they've had a lot of looking at a location for Station 2. I don't really know where that is right now.
That is a part of the SPLOST. SPLOST 7 is the relocation of Station 2. And those that go by Station 2, while it has a lot of history, it certainly could use
facelift.
It sure could, it sure could. And we are looking at locations for that. Also a little more strategically to meet the demands of the growing city. You know, Station 2 was put in a long time ago and it's in the middle of a congested area.
Right.
So it can be a little tough to respond as quickly as we want to. But we're going through that right now, evaluating locations and then using those SPLOST dollars to give us a new Station 2.
Both of those departments, I've been talking with them recently about technology, and I can't quote all that off the top of my head right now, but we can talk about it in a later show. But I really think they're just utilizing technology to the greatest value for the citizens, definitely.
Oh, they sure are. Going from body cameras for police to the in-car police and all the things our fire department uses to help respond to our citizens. It's a great thing. It is at times difficult to manage as you have more IT and things out there, and there's more resources we have to make sure are in place. But yeah, our two chiefs are doing a great job utilizing all that technology to make us more effective and efficient in meeting the citizens' needs of Gainesville.
And the police department has especially been using Facebook to apprehend a number of criminals. So if you can't get the latest copy of Bad and Busted, then maybe you want to check out the Gainesville Police Department Facebook page, because really appreciate the citizens coming forward when they see something.
Certainly, they certainly are plugged in on social media. So they again, as part of that community-oriented policing, that they want to reach out to help make our community a great place and continue to make it the great place that it is.
Now, last month I talked with the Gainesville City Council members and also the mayor. We tried to cover a number of topics in the city. So many people in so little time. So we'll have more time with you, and certainly this is an area I know that you have probably worked on in Gwinnett County, and that is transportation. And Gainesville's transportation master plan certainly has been discussed. We've seen some things happen here recently, and I know work is already underway, but just bring us up to date on what we can expect to see in 2016.
Well, you're absolutely right that traffic and transportation are key issues. A friend of mine once told me that having traffic issues is a sign of success for a community. So it's a good problem to have that we have to work through. Some of the things that are already in place is some people may have seen the surveyors out on Green Street that are working. That's the first phase of that project, for us to identify exactly what's out there, what's underground that's out there that we need to know about as we move forward trying to address what we can do through that corridor of Green Street to move people through the city better. Also excited about the intersection project at Jesse Jewell and Queen City Parkway moving forward. The initial design phase should start soon on that. We're excited about the changes there to keep us flowing a little better within that interchange to move people through the city better as well. Several other key things. The City Council will soon vote to approve our 2016 state funding for paving some roads and some smaller intersection fixes this year, so we're excited about that. And again, working with the state DOT, or what they can do, especially on their rapid response projects. For instance, the left-hand turn lane on Jesse Jewell into the Francis Meadows Center should soon have that left-hand turn lane extended. So working with the state DOT on issues like that can be those smaller fixes that we don't have to wait a long time for.
When you come into a community like Gainesville, coming in from Gwinnett, and you see, certainly I'm sure traffic is nothing like it is there, but it's something to us. We think it is just the worst. Do you come in and just with your background, are there any obvious fixes, or is this really a difficult problem to deal with?
Well, in any community, it's a difficult problem. You mentioned Gwinnett's issues, and while it's a little different than Gwinnett, Gainesville still has the same issues that Gwinnett has, maybe on a different scale though, and there's still the challenge to address those. So there are little things we can do. Again, like I mentioned, some of those quick fixes to make the left-hand turns and right-hand turns off major thoroughfares can be done to do the quick fixes, but it's still something that has to be analyzed. Getting people in and around Gainesville is a difficult thing because of the history of how Gainesville's developed out. The lake being here, even though it's a key amenity, that makes it a little difficult for certain passages without building bridges, and that adds to the cost of projects there. So little fixes like that can go a long way, but again, we have to study it and implement our transportation master plan. That plan has been a great guide to follow for us moving forward over the next couple of years.
You hit the ground running when you came to Gainesville, the 1st of December. Stormwater was already on the agenda. It had been on the agenda for quite some time. And you came in, your very first meeting was quite contentious. This discussion about stormwater, how to handle it, how to pay for it. So really, a really humongous project for 2016. There's no other word to describe it. Let's talk a little bit about stormwater. We're going to do some shows in the next few months to really better educate the community about this issue. But let's just kind of talk about how we got to where we are right now, and then what we can expect in the next few months.
Well, you're right. That first meeting I was part of, the second day on the job, was not a great way to get started. However, this is a great conversation for our community to have about talking about our assets, how we're going to deal with this issue of stormwater management in our community. What staff got from that meeting from the council was that not that make this go away or we don't talk about it anymore. They understand the need to talk about our infrastructure and our assets and stormwater management. And they want us to go back and study it a little bit more, develop a public education program. As you mentioned, we're going to be doing more TV interviews like this moving forward and other things with a website and whatnot to do that. Leading up to a public open house, again, to have the conversation with our citizens and business owners about stormwater management and how we address that. When you talk about water, there's the three legs to it. Everyone understands the need for drinking water. You want clean water to come to your house and be reliable, and understand the need to pay for that. Also, with wastewater, when everyone flushes that toilet, they want it to go away and to be treated and taken care of and discharged in a responsible manner. And again, understand the need that there's a cost to that. The third leg of that stool is the stormwater management. And again, that's something that people in most communities in the state of Georgia and the southeast and the nation for that matter have. Every time it rains, we have that issue. However, no one's paid for it in the past. Well, just like any other city, Gainesville's had infrastructure put in place for many, many years. That infrastructure is aging, and unfortunately, when it was put in place, there weren't mechanisms set forth to address the future maintenance of that. Now, those chickens are coming home to roost, so to speak, with that, and we've got to figure out how to deal with that aging infrastructure. We also have some stormwater infrastructure that put in that wasn't sized correctly. There wasn't much thought given to the growth of the community and the capacity of those pipes to be put in, so we have localized flooding around the city, and how to address that. And there's also the regulatory side of things. Since the Clean Water Act in the 1970s, there's been more and more regulations put on local governments, and unfortunately that's something we have to deal with and address. So all three of those items are what we have to have as part of this conversation, talk about how is the city of Gainesville going to address those issues. And again, it's a little contentious, obviously, passionate on both sides for a lot of people, but it's a topic we need to be having as a community.
You mentioned Green Street. There's an area of Green Street that floods every time it rains. We all get over in the other lane, you know, to avoid the flooding. So the perfect example is they're all around us, and I think one of the things we'll be doing in the next few months is showing people these examples where flooding is such a problem.
Absolutely. I have tend to call it the horror show for stormwater out there, whether it's flooding, whether it's pipes that don't have a bottom in the pipe anymore, old steel pipes that have rusted out and they have no bottom, and the water's flowing across the dirt and washing out the dirt over time. So there's many of those things out there that we need to get our message across, that there's a need for this, that we need to be addressing, that the city really doesn't address right now, and it's a growing need, and we got to figure out a way to address it.
And Gainesville in November will celebrate her 195th birthday. So we're almost 200 years old. And we know some of those pipes are definitely 100 years old.
Absolutely, you're right. Gainesville is just like the streets of Gainesville have to be maintained. Some of those pipes were put in a long time ago, and really at times I don't want to think about the condition of some of those pipes. Again, stormwater management is one of those out of sight, out of mind type of assets or utilities, but eventually it will come home to us, and we don't want to have a situation like Stardust Road recently in the county where instead of being proactive to fix it, it was reactive, and the road had to be closed for a long time, and the county had to address that, and I feel for them in that situation. And those are the type of things we want to try to avoid. We're a little more proactive to address those, and the costs are cheaper when we do that as well.
Now, the Department of Water Resources, formerly known as the Gainesville Public Utilities Department, all trying to get used to the new name, they are going to oversee this stormwater issue plan, however it moves forward. What else, that's the city's largest department, dealing with water and wastewater and now stormwater. What else can we expect to hear out of that department this year?
Well, the first challenge is to replace the retiring director. Kelly Randall has retired after many years of service to the city, and we appreciate that. Those are big shoes to fill. So we're in the process of finding that next director, and when that person does come in, they do have several big issues to face, one of them still being the tri-state water wars. That's not going away yet. The Corps of Engineers is still working through their water usage manual on how to deal with allocations from Lake Lanier.
I have heard that. I've been in Gainesville since 1989. I think I've been hearing about the tri-state water war.
Yeah, it is. It's been going on for a long time. People think it's recent, but it has. It's really probably even longer than that when you came here, and it's not something that's going to be settled in 2016. But obviously we got to jump in and be an active player with that, with Gainesville's robust water and sewer system. That we're a major player in the metro Atlanta area of that with Lake Lanier right here. So that new director is going to have a big task to fill with that. And on top of that, just the implementation of the department's capital plan. Again, I mentioned that the city has a robust water and sewer system out there, and it takes a lot of money to maintain that and to move it forward into the future. So those are two big issues that new director is going to have to face.
The Gainesville City Council is always talking about what they can do to make this a better community, and they always put quality of life at the forefront of almost every discussion. Let's talk about what issues we'll see this year that really are quality of life issues.
Well, addressing housing within the city is always a key thing to do that, and against housing at all levels. We have a couple of new subdivisions that are going in now, the Crest Winds and the Monday Mill developments, and we're glad to see those going in. But it's also other issues such as the redevelopment of the Atlanta Street apartments. We've been able to be fortunate to have some federal funding there to be able to address that, to kind of give us a new facelift on one of those key corridors coming into our downtown area.
Now, do you have any dates on when all that's going to happen?
No, and it's a fluid process with there. We have people living there now, and we have to help them find another place to live before we move forward with that, and help them find a quality place to move to, so then we can redevelop that area, and then perhaps those residents or other ones. It'll be a mixed income type development go back in to come in. So 2016 is the best I can do with that. Again, it's fluid. We don't have hard deadlines really that's associated with that. Again, it's a great issue to address. But also addressing some of our more mature neighborhoods. There's a lot of lots around town where there's a house or two around, spotted around, that needs a little help. And we've got a great housing program run by Chris Davis. And he does a good job of allocating our HUD dollars, our federal dollars, to rehab that, and then turning those dollars back around after the sale of those revitalized homes so we can go address another one. So it's those type issues addressing the housing issues within the city. There's also the aesthetics of the city. I mentioned streetscaping earlier, to be addressing that throughout the city, not just in downtown, but in our employment corridors, our key corridors coming into the city, to address those as well. Then there's also the signage plan that we're looking to do for the downtown area, our wayfinding signage to help people get in and around downtown, and also coming in from our corridors along from the 365-95 corridor to kind of guide people into our town and kind of give them that branding or feel for that. So those are some of the key issues of quality of life we need to address in 2016.
You talk about the people coming into Gainesville. I was having a conversation with someone the other day wanting to know more about the community and explaining to them that, you know, basically at night we have 36,000 people sleeping here, but in the daytime it's a couple 100,000 people as the hub for Northeast Georgia. So there are a lot of people coming into Gainesville every single day, and they need to know how and where to get around for sure.
Absolutely, and this is the hub, economic hub for Northeast Georgia. And that's a great problem to have to tackle for the city and to help those people move through, whether it's transportation improvements or signage improvements to help people flow through the city better is a great issue. I don't know if I mentioned, but also aesthetics of the city. Working, again, I think I mentioned streetscaping, but also things like architectural design requirements to make sure as new buildings go in around the city that they're the kind of flavor on the architecture that we want to see in the city.
We've also, over the years, and I know one of the entrances to the city, exit 2020 or 22, is getting new trees and improvement just to, as you come into Gainesville.
That's right, I believe it's exit 20, the first true Gainesville exit
right.
as you come into. A little streetscaping in the landscape areas the DOT has. It's all part of DOT right-of-way that does get mowed. There's grassing there, but there's some things we can do there through some state grants that we can go in and do some beautification of those areas, a little more aesthetics, a little more welcoming as you come into the city, being our first interstate exit as you approach the city. That, along with some of that branding signage that we could do with that exit, I think will be key and sort of the first impression, if you will, as you come into the city of Gainesville.
We have growth truly from one end of Gainesville to the other that is taking place right now. The Kroger, the new Kroger corridor off of exit 24, and then of course the Dawsonville Highway and everything that's going in there. So there's a lot. There's still a lot. I've done this interview for the last several years, and as the economy was tanked, and Gainesville still was managing to bring in some development, and then here we are. We just continue every single year to see quality development is what we want.
Absolutely. Whether it's our industrial business parks here in the city, our existing employment corridors, and our retail centers, I think it shows how poised the city and the county as well was coming out of the recession with the growth we've had. We made the right investments before the recession. We weathered the storm, so to speak, through the recession, and we're in a great position to take on some excellent growth in this city as we move forward.
Your job as city manager also came with about 700 employees. I don't know why anyone would love that position. You talked today about better streets, better sidewalks, police, fire. These are the kinds of things that we wouldn't have if it weren't for employees. So that is really where it starts. Tell me plans for, I know it's always hard to keep a quality workforce, but what are you thinking in that area?
Well, we talked a lot about assets today that the city has, and I believe the greatest asset the city has is its staff, its people. So those people behind those things you talked about. It's the picking up the leaves, it's the running the water and sewer system, it's behind the wheel in the police car. And we need to make sure that our city staff is compensated appropriately. Now, I'm not talking about making them the highest paid people in the city or the
You would be the best city manager ever. If
I
you
would. I'd be very popular among those 700 people. Anyway, but not making them the richest people in the city, but just like any other organization, we have marketplace factors that drive us. And our studies have shown, our compensation study that we did a couple years ago showed that Gainesville lags behind many of our other jurisdictions, and that causes us to have a marketplace challenge for that. So we need to make sure our staff is appropriately compensated with their pay and benefits, and also includes the training and personal development we give to them so that they can learn to do their job better and can grow as a person and be an even better employee for the citizens of Gainesville. Now, I understand that comes with a cost of that, and you have to balance that, especially in the area of rising healthcare costs. And we have to do the things there as well to control those challenges while providing a quality resource to our employees.
We've covered a lot of subjects today. Just want to, have we missed anything? Is there something that you just really want to be able to move forward on this year?
Well, we talked about a lot of things today which are investments in our community, and I'm going to be talking a lot about that over the next couple of years as investments in our community. Gainesville has an excellent history and track record of providing those investments in its community to address the growth and sustainability of the city. And I'm looking forward to building upon that, and we can continue those conversations with our residents and business owners in the city about what investments need to be made in this city to keep Gainesville such a great place.
It's been great talking with you today. We appreciate it. Look forward to seeing what actually happens in our new year.
Thanks, Cantil. I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'd like to thank everyone for watching. If there's a particular issue you'd like to see discussed, you can email news@gainesville.org or call 770-297-5499. For TV 18, I'm Cantil Feltz.
You're watching TV 18, the government channel for Gainesville and Hall County.
It's that time of year again, everybody. The Spring Chicken Festival. It's Georgia's official chicken cook-off. I'm Cantil Feltz. Joining me now is Regina Mansfield, our Main Street manager. And there are so many ways the community can get involved, aren't there?
Absolutely. If you love to cook chicken, we would love to have you. If you are an artist or you are a volunteer, it's just a great, fun festival for you to be involved with.
We are really interested in recruiting cook teams today. Tell me how a team can get involved and what they really need to be able to do. This is not a one-man show, is it?
No. Bring your friends. If you're a business or an organization, get all your coworkers together. You're going to need about maybe 4 to 10 people to cook 200 pounds of chicken.
That's a lot of chicken.
It's a lot of chicken.
Now the chicken, do the teams have to actually purchase the chicken?
No, it's a minimal registration fee, and then the chicken is free.
It's all donated.
It's all donated from our local poultry suppliers.
And I know that we have a lot of backyard barbecuers out there too, so this is for both professional and backyard and just people who like to cook for fun.
Oh, absolutely. But then again, remember, you're cooking 200 pounds of chicken minimum. So last year we cooked nearly 7,000 pounds of chicken at the festival.
And I think I ate about 1,000 pounds of chicken at the festival.
I think I did too.
You mentioned other ways to get involved. The rehatched market. This is something that you hatched a few years ago, and it's really taken off.
It is growing. So we're looking for artists right now. If you create art with recycled, upcycled, repurposed items, we have what we call the rehatched market. And it's just a really neat market with lots of interesting artwork for sale.
And now the Quinlan helps us with that,
The Quinlan does, yes.
All right, so we're looking for some artists, and we're also looking for, and I think at the end of the day, this is one of the most important jobs you can hold, and that's the job of a volunteer. And what do you think a volunteer gets?
These cool t-shirts.
Now, not purple. There'll be a different color this year.
Every year we surprise. We have a new color, so we're working on that now.
What do people need to do to go ahead and get started? We're still just a couple of months out, but they don't need to wait, do they?
No, don't wait, because the cook team slots will fill up quickly. You can go to www.downtowngainesville.com, and the applications and information is on there.
All right. Well, this is Georgia's official chicken cook-off. We have a proclamation from the governor, so it's the real thing, everybody. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I would.
All right, go right ahead.
Na 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 na.
All right, high five for the chicken dance. You can come out and do it live during the Spring Chicken Festival. We'll see you there.
Saturday, April 30th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
The Spring Chicken Festival is presented by Keep Hall Beautiful and Main Street Gainesville.
Get your plates, get your plates.